My plan was to build one of the greatest cities ever, at least compared to what I've built before. It looked like everything was going well, but then caused by a single change, everything started going downhill. So I'm going to rebuild a big part of the city's transport infrastructure before it is too late. And I'm glad the opportunity to show you how came up way earlier than I anticipated. Hello peeps, Drakken here. Welcome back to the 18th episode of Building Drakken. Last episode we got rid of the real-time mod, and this resulted in a few, let's call them unforeseeable side effects. Unforeseeable in the sense of that now seeing the effects I can easily tell what happened and why, but back then I just didn't think about these outcomes. So what is going on? We have increased our income drastically, our rail goes nuts, swarming our commercial zone with delivery trucks to an extent that they are having difficulties to return to the station. And commerce is importing while we are still exporting. What? Now the good news is all our commercials do not close anymore, they pretty much sell goods all day and night, increasing the commercial income by more than 100%. Awesome. Bad news is they also demand more than 100% of goods to be delivered to them. Now as the city grew with the real-time mod being active, I never had to deal with such demand. As our commercial zones are open 24/7 now, everybody can go shopping at their own schedule, which evens out our public transportation utilization, showing that we have a way too robust public transportation network. So I want to go through all those lines and adjust them to the actual demands. Another noteworthy side effect is our RCI is back in the range that we can further grow the city with, and our unemployment rate went down to 5%, and also our crime rate dropped significantly. Nice! Okay, let's dive into today's topic. Importing while still exporting means we have a distribution problem. If we would produce too few goods, we would import. If too much, we would export. But both simultaneously means we produce enough, but fail to deliver it to the commercial zones in the required quantities. So let us return to right where last episode ended. In daylight, please. Thank you. Okay, I think the root of today's problem is that the station is working too much, which then causes the issue with the traffic returning to this facility. So in order to fix this, we need more freight train stations to limit the workload on this one. So I want a station that takes care about this area and another one taking care about the deliveries into that area. To make this work, you need to understand how the traffic AI in City Skylines operates. Basically, it tries to minimize the time traveled on roads between origin and destination. Same goes for the trip back. So the sole reason for traffic preferring wider roads is not the amount of lanes. It is the speed limit that lets them travel faster on these roads. It does not consider congestion when picking its route, at least not in vanilla. So to make traffic actually prefer rail over road, the rail route has to be the faster route, which is one reason for the highway interchange being here and not over there way closer to the city. So to optimize the use of our cargo stations, they need to provide the fastest connection, which is why they should be placed right within your industry areas. You'd want them there anyway because generic industry requires them to level up, becoming more efficient, less pollutant, and then also require highly educated workers. If you do it right, you don't need a slum of dumb workers. This station here I placed because that station down there is really busy already. Around here we have 4 unique factories and a farming area. The organic and local produce commercial zones directly sell what industry specialized in farming is producing. So chances are the farming industry is going to use the station as well to deliver straight to those commercial zones. I said putting stuff right in the center would be ideal, but regarding my commercial zones, I rather have them in one piece. So I placed the stations on the edge here. Now to make the station less attractive, I should as well lower the speed on the road in this tunnel, because by doing that I kinda shrink its influence area by just a little bit, so the other stations get a bit more of the service workload. Okay, let's zoom out to get a better understanding of how this all works together. We hopefully by now established that to get trucks off your roads and highways, you need to make sure that using the rail becomes the fastest transportation option. Gladly, cargo trains can go at up to 150 km an hour at vanilla settings, so being faster than the highway definitely helps. Now there are mods which can influence that trains just spawn when they are full, but those mods do not prevent cargo stations from after unloading unloading, taking the exact same train, load them up to send them to a different station, which in our setup right now would result in tons and tons of nearly empty trains being set out from our commercial zones back into the industry area, because IT clusters and recycling centers produce stuff that the industry might want. This could lead to a train network becoming more congested and less effective the bigger it gets. We don't want that to happen. So the only chance of getting rid of this is to force a despawning of the train in the commercial zone after arrival. And this we can force by only connecting them with one-way tracks. This then forces recycling centers and IT clusters to make their deliveries by road. Well, neither the recycling center nor the IT cluster buildings have a limit on trucks they could send out to deliver their resources. The recycling centers are only limited by the amount of garbage trucks to collect garbage, not counting how many freight trucks they have been sending out to deliver the recycled materials. Now the question is, what would we want to be connected by rail then anyway? Well, in Drakkens' case, for sure the processed resources should reach the other stations in the industry area, especially our new station up here. In general, it is considered a good idea to connect your entire industry to each other. You need to understand, a station's ability to spawn trains is limited by the time it takes to load a train and then dispatch it. This brings us to our next point. You do not want external trains to mess with your rail network, because again, limited time on those station tracks, which we want to use for supplying our city. So you need to separate your internal tracks from those connected to the outside. There are two ways of doing this. The first would be a setup like this, with two train stations, one being connected to the outside and the other being connected to your internal network, with this little roundabout in between where you place the essential services like garbage collection, fire protection and police. Looks a bit wasteful if you ask me, for these services can't do their job in the rest of the city, and it requires two stations to separate internal from external. There's a better solution though: terminal stations, which are connected from the same side to external and internal tracks. This has the benefit that trains first need to arrive here before they could be repurposed, and thus not allowing a direct connection into your city. As you can see, Drakken is made entirely of terminal stations, for I also find them very convenient to work with. And remember from previous episodes, every station needs to have a buffer track where at least one train can fit and wait without clogging up the main line. In general, it is a good idea to build a city with minimal imports and eventually also exports. Always make sure there is at least one station able to receive raw materials, and then I would strongly advise to frequently check if imports are happening, and if so, what is getting imported, and then adjust your industry accordingly to prevent that in the future. Try to reduce the use of external tracks as much as possible. Also limit the amount of outside connections, especially if you intend to import a lot of goods, because these terminal hybrid stations still need their tracks to send stuff into your city.
Okay.
And with too many connections, you'd end up getting lots of barely filled trains swarming the multiple routes into your city. Now, we talked a lot about cargo stations. What about a cargo hub? First, you do not want to connect the outside rail to a cargo hub, otherwise there will be coming trains from the outside using your hub to load freight on a ship, and you don't want that because the time they take to unload may mess up your schedules. Second, you want to make sure that import coming in by ship can be sent into your commercial zones by rail. And then you also want your cargo hub to be able to send and receive goods from other rail stations in the industry area. By the way, if you are not pleased with the speed at which a rail station is able to receive trucks, make something like this. Because of a better angle, the trucks can enter nearly at full speed. I don't use this because I don't have to, but I thought you might want to know it. Now, with all that out of the way, it is time to start our simulation, and if you remember me redoing all my transport lines, we have the opportunity to watch our bus exodus out of the city. Now, before we do that, I just want to inform you that I did some little changes here. I adjusted those junctions, I made this road a two-way, and also turned this road into a asymmetrical road because I wanted to reduce the speed to reduce the incentive to drive through here. And then I also did zone this entire area. Yeah, we forgot that in past episodes, and now we have the demand for residential, commercial and office. Now let's watch our buses. What a mess. Well, that is going to clean up itself. I am actually more concerned about this. Okay, that should help. With the second station taking the traffic from the right side of the area, I hope we increase the throughput here enough to keep up with the truck traffic. But because a higher throughput here also means more traffic elsewhere, I had to make this a two-way road in order to allow the trucks coming from the top to make their right turn here before hitting this major junction. And then also gave the I just want to go left traffic here a kind of slip lane to reduce their impact on this major junction. Also, I noticed that I had to make some changes over at our new station because the trucks there need some buffer road to return to the station without affecting the other traffic that just wants to pass through this area. Before I finally dive into the planned changes for the rail infrastructure, let's check some city vitals before we take a quantum leap to see how the alterations made affected the city. That I would call a success. We are again the main supplier of our commercial zones and traffic flow is back to where it should be. So real, I don't like the trains being blocked by each other early in the industry area, and as I intend to expand the city further, we need to make sure our cargo rail network is up to the supplying task. This time I'm building this from real world examples first and explain why and how it works later. This rail line is for the future expansion of the city. While doing this episode, I noticed that delivering this station from other parts of the industry takes too long. So I decided to make the station not receive any cargo at all and instead supply those factories by road. Installed a quick route from the warehouses and all they need to do now is request materials again. Thing is, they won't. As long as they assume that there is a shipment on its way. So I have to delete them and replace them. Instantly new trucks are on the way and are going to fill them up. Now let me explain how this railtrack monster works. With roads we would apply the diverge before converge principle you know from past episodes. Basically, we would diverge the traffic at the origin of traffic depending on the traffic's destination and then converge those leading to the same destination. We can't do that with rail if we want to keep in a somewhat realistic range of gradient with the tracks. So the basic idea to speed up the train network is making trains go parallel until they need to funnel into a single track that takes them into the city. But the way of how the funneling is done is what keeps this smoothly running. At this set of junctions we only allow to switch tracks to the left, and since we want to build this with as few junctions as possible, this serves the trains going into the industry area as well, so they also can pick the right tracks to their destination using two-way tracks here. If the track that leads them to their destination is not to the left, they will stay in their lane, continuing to go parallel to the other trains. Then there is this curved buffer zone here, where the trains have the space to wait in line for their turn, and this also ends with the only tracks allowing them a shift of tracks to the right. Now trains need quite a while to speed up. We want to reduce the waiting time by signaling the next train to go as soon as the one before them has passed the junction. Since we do not have proper signaling for this to work, you need to understand that trains only start going when the next segment after the junction is free of any wagons. So to speed this up, we make these track segments as short as possible. Now, general tips on proper rail logistics. You maybe noticed that at the edge of the map there is also this weird right, left, left, right crossing. Yes, these tracks actually act as a station. So you could establish train lines from the edge of the map to your stations to pick up passengers there frequently. You want to do this to prevent outside passenger trains from spawning at random times and messing with your schedules. While at the edge of the map, here is a serious tip a lot of map makers do not know. If tracks are placed in the map editor vanilla style, then there is a high probability that those station tracks are too short to allow a train to fit in, and thus preventing the despawning of the train. Which is why so many maps cause trouble in the later game when rail traffic becomes serious. Gladly we are playing modded, so all you need to do to unstuck them is to get rid of this first node. If you liked the video or find it informative, I'd really appreciate a like, cause it really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Well, the city's running, so thanks for watching and we see each other next time. Bye guys!